Hey everybody, it's Tim, and I'm here to review the books that I read with you. No, you weren't there. Hey everybody, it's Tim, and I'm here to tell you about the books that I read in April. As you can see, I read 9 books in April, and I had a theme, so let's talk about it. The first book I read is The Good Daughter by Karin Slaughter, and Karin, I've heard is a... The first book I read was The Good Daughter by Karin Slaughter, and I've heard that Karin is a great author, and I loved this book, so I gave it 4 stars. This is a 2017 thriller, and I have some notes here. It takes place a dual timeline. A family is attacked at their farmhouse, and then 28 years later, one of the daughters is navigating life and her fractured family, and then tragedy strikes this small town again, and things kind of come out of the woodwork. So it's definitely suspenseful. It has a couple of different point of views. Like I said, there's the original crime from 28 years ago, and then there's what's going on in present day. And I really enjoyed this book. Let me read my Goodreads review for you. Now, Goodreads says that this is Good Daughter number 1, so I'm wondering if there's a sequel. If there is, I definitely want to check it out. In fact, let's look into that real quick. Okay, so it looks like there's a book, The Good Daughter, which I read, and then there's another one that is called Last Breath by Karin Slaughter, which is Good Daughter .5, so I wonder if it's maybe like a prequel. Okay, so it seems that this prequel takes place in that 28-year span. So the original attack still happens as depicted in this book, but then the .5 story comes out in the years between those events, if that makes sense. So, I don't know, I'd probably read it. I liked that character. But let me read you my review before I get distracted. This is my first Karin Slaughter and will definitely read more. I was able to predict a few things, but still enjoyed the ride. It felt a little long at 638 pages, and I don't think that was necessary. Some scenes were repeated, and chapters were about 20 to 30 pages long. It's true, the chapters are really long. I think that on page 577 is chapter 18. So, yeah, they're very long chapters, which I don't mind. I like getting lost in a story, but it did feel a little long, and it was repetitive because there were scenes that we kind of saw a few different times, but nothing was really that different. It wasn't like huge revelations were made or anything like that. Anyway, all in all, I couldn't put it down, though, and I enjoyed the characters. So yeah, that is 4-star book, The Good Daughter by Karin Slaughter. I have a few other Karin Slaughter books around my room, and so I will definitely be reading more by her, and I'm excited to see what else she has on her backlist. The second book I read in April was The Good Guy by Dean Koontz, who is an author that my mom really likes. She has so many of his books, but I had never read anything by him. When I landed on good for my theme, I was excited to try this one out. So I noticed that I had about 5 books on my shelves with good in the title, so I kind of decided, okay, in April, let's read those, and that'll be a fun theme. I kind of also, realized there was Good Friday, and Renee Good, who had a birthday in April, and so kind of in her honor, I thought maybe it'd be nice. But really, it was just that I had 5 books with good in the title, and then I ended up finding more because I started seeing them. It's kind of like when you get a new car, and then you see that car everywhere. Like, they've always been there, you're just noticing them. I started seeing how many books have good in the title when I'd be thrifting or whatnot, and ended up with 9. And I'm still seeing them, but I had to stop just buying whatever good book I found. But Dean Koontz's The Good Guy. This is a thriller that came out in 2007. I will tell you about it, and then I'll give you my star rating. So this is about a man named Tim, so I appreciated the representation. He's at a bar, and someone mistakes him as a hitman, and this person has hired a hitman, so they give Tim a bunch of money and the information of who to go after, and Tim is like, okay, and that guy leaves. And then a few moments later, the actual hitman comes and assumes that Tim is the one hiring a hitman. So Tim has to kind of decide in the moment, how is he going to proceed? And he ends up kind of going on an adventure. I rated this book 3 stars. So I did leave myself some breadcrumbs. I had a post-it note that I left in here. So it kept my interest. The ending wasn't very satisfying or entirely satisfying, but I would read more of the Koontz backlist. So, yeah, I really enjoyed the ride. The characters were fine. It was definitely kind of exciting and like, oh, where is this going to go? The end, you know, this probably could have been 4 stars, except that the ending just, like I said, it wasn't super satisfying. Like, I go on this journey and I'm kind of just like waiting for the big bad to get what's coming or some big twist or something like that, and it just kind of fizzled out a little bit at the end. The next book I read was Good Neighbors by Sarah Langan, and this came out in 2021, and it's a thriller. I gave this book 5 stars. It's a riveting and ruthless portrayal of American suburbs. It has a map, which I am a sucker for anything at the beginning of a book, whether it's a map or a family tree. Let me find. So here it kind of starts with like a map of the neighborhood, and you can see all the different houses kind of along this park area, and it also tells you the names of the residents, the family members and their ages. And so I always love when a book gives us this kind of companion material, something that I can reference back to, which I certainly did throughout my reading adventure. In this story, tragedy strikes when there's a sinkhole and then one of the neighborhood children disappears. And so you kind of jump between multiple timelines and multiple point of views as you start to learn about the backstories of some of these characters and things that they may or may not have done. It really highlights the dangers of gossip and fear-mongering and mob mentality in a modern setting, and I thought it was very powerful. And at the end of the book, I just kind of thought, 5 stars. It definitely got me in the feels, and it definitely kind of showcases the consequences of how dangerous things like gossip and mob mentality can be. So I liked it, and 5 stars. The next book I read was Good Family by Terry Gamble. This is a novel, and it came out in 2005, and it follows Maddie, who hasn't been back to her Waspy Lake, Michigan family home in 11 years, but a lot of members, several members of her extended family are coming home because the matriarch of the family is kind of coming to the end of her days, and so the family's getting together. Throughout this novel, we follow Maddie and her family as they confront their past and look to their future. I'm referencing my notes over here. So, I gave this book 2 stars. Let me tell you why. Oh, the other thing I should mention about this book is it also starts with a family tree. So I was kind of in heaven because the 2 books in a row had something added on, and so I was really pumped about that. So my review says, any book with a family tree at the front immediately captivates me, and I started this story thinking it was well written and could turn into a slow burn 5 star. Unfortunately, nothing really happens. We learn a bit about the family's history and secrets, but it wasn't enough. I kept waiting for a twist or a big reveal, but nothing came. Ironically, characters in the story summed it up perfectly on page 265. Would you ever go see a movie about our family like ours? Maybe, but to make it interesting, you'd have to have a murder. So there were things I liked, but on the whole, it felt too long without enough substance. And so, yeah, I really wanted this book to be great. It's definitely kind of like rich people secrets and whatnot, and I like that kind of stuff, but it just wasn't enough, and yeah, it was kind of disappointing in that way, so I ended up giving it 2 stars. The next book that I read was Good Husbands by Cate Ray, and let me just read you the back of this book directly. Sort of. I'll just summarize. 3 women are complete strangers, but they have one thing in common. They've each received a letter accusing their husbands of committing a sexual assault more than 2 decades prior. Is the accusation true, or is there more to the story? It's a secret that has remained buried for years. So this follows three different women, three different wives, who all get this letter one day, and it depicts how they respond, and definitely makes you as a reader think about what would you do if you were in that situation. And so these three women connect and try to figure out how to proceed. What are they going to do? Do they confront their husbands? Is it even true? It was definitely suspenseful. I don't know if I mentioned, this is a psychological suspense that came out in 2022, and I gave that book 4 stars. I couldn't put it down, but was slightly disappointed by the ending. Are you noticing a trend here? I tend to get to the end and just really want to be blown away, and doesn't happen sometimes. Anyway, I couldn't put it down, but it was slightly disappointing at the end. I kind of wanted a bigger reveal or twist or climax something. I thought it would be 5 stars the whole time I was reading, so it's a bummer it fizzled out to 4 at the end. Definitely enjoyed it though, and would like to read more from this author. So yeah, I had never heard of this author before. I would definitely read more. It was great. Like I said, I thought it would be 5 stars the entire time, the entire way. And then I got to the very end, and they just kind of fumbled the landing, and going back to the good family for a second, I've been reading a lot of mystery thriller type books, and my big issue with this book is it didn't feel like anything happened, and that's maybe not fair because this is not a thriller or a mystery. It's just a novel depicting a family and uncovering their secrets. But I guess I just kind of felt like that quote I read, the secrets didn't seem like they were really novel worthy. Nothing really happened. And so in this book, stuff definitely happened. I just didn't like necessarily how it all ended at the end. But I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. We're over halfway. The next book I read was The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. This is a thriller that came out in 2020, and I gave this book 5 stars. This is my first Sally Hepworth. I have another one that I need to read, and I know she has some other books out there. I've heard good things. I'm just really glad that she had good in the title so I could give her a try. This is about 2 sisters and their relationship with each other over the years. I wrote some notes, so I'll just read them. One takes the lead, one follows, one gets into trouble, the other tries to smooth things over. One cannot have a baby, and the other wants to give her sister the gift of motherhood. This employs mixed media because it has journal entries. I think that's mixed media. There's the multi-timeline. You kind of see about the sisters as they're growing up in their childhood, and then present day. And I will read you my review. A delicious read with a wonderfully unique and relatable neurodivergent main character. The story was charming yet mysterious, cozy but kept me on the edge of my seat. My first read by this author, and I'm hooked. So yeah, I just really loved this read. I flew through it. The characters, it's so refreshing to read from the perspective of a neurodivergent character and have it well done. So I'm sure there are other books that do that, but it's just refreshing. So I really appreciated that about this one, and I cannot wait to read more by her. The next book I read was Good Christian Bitches by Kim Gatlin. This came out in 2008. It's a contemporary women's fiction or chick lit. I hated this. I gave it 1.5 stars. So I was so pumped to find this in the wild. I got it at Goodwill for a couple of bucks. I was aware of it because this show on ABC from 2012 I watched when it came out. I was a big Desperate Housewives fan. That seemed to be in the same vein, and I watched that first season of that show, and I really liked it a lot, and I kind of thought, well, surely the book will be even better. So when I saw this in the wild, I picked it up immediately. It had good in the title. It was perfect. It was just so disappointing, and I'll read you the back, and then I'll read you my review. So, Amanda needs some heaven-sent help. She's divorced her cheating husband and fled with her 2 teenagers back to their hometown in Hillside Park, a Dallas neighborhood so upper class that the question isn't where to bank, but whose family owns the bank. And it goes on, but I won't bore you. In this book, Amanda ends up tasked with throwing an event, but some of the GCBs in her realm are trying to sabotage her, don't really like her. Fine. Let me read you my review. 1.5 stars because there were a few edge of my seat moments, but they ultimately disappointed me a page later. The story was slow, repetitive, not much happened, and the GCBs did not get what was coming to them. Major disappointment. So, yeah, I just wanted so much more from this book. I think it's a debut, so, you know, take that for what it's worth, I guess. I just think that this had so much potential, and it's evident to me now that they took this, and the series isn't a direct adaptation. Like, they changed some of the character names and the plot of the series, so this is just kind of an inspiration for what would become the ABC series GCB. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, all along, I'm like, okay, well, if the women are so cruel in this, and I'm fine with that, but at the end, I needed some sort of consequences, and it didn't. And what drove me nuts even more is that the main character was like, I have the perfect plan that's going to show them what's coming, and no, she didn't. So, yeah, I will be unhauling this book. I don't need a trophy of this one. I even kind of went back and forth between 1 star and 1.5 because I reread my review before making this video, and I thought, I don't know that it's a 1.5. But there was specifically 1 or 2 scenes that were really well written and that did have me, like, feeling the feels and, like, just waiting and anticipating to see, oh, wow, what's going to happen? And then, like I said, I was disappointed a page later. But the moments were there. I appreciate them. I think a 1 star would have to be a book that I just absolutely hated, and there's no redeeming it. And this had some potential, so I gave it 1.5 stars. The next book I read was Too Good to Be True by Carola Lovering. It is a book of the month. Oh, it's over here. It's a book of the month. My friend Janelle loaned this to me because it had good in the title. And it's a 2021 thriller. I will read you the blurb, give you my star rating, then read you my review. Skye is overjoyed when her boyfriend, Burke, proposes after a whirlwind courtship. Though Skye seems to have the world at her fingertips, she's smart, beautiful, and from a well-off family, she's also battling crippling OCD ever since her mother's death. But now, Burke, handsome, older, and more emotionally mature than any man she's met before, says he wants her, forever. Except Burke isn't who he claims to be, and interspersed letters to his therapist reveal the truth. He's happily married and using Skye for his own deceptive ends. That's as much as I'll tell you. There is more, but I always like going in blind. So this follows Skye and Burke and another character. It's also takes place in a few different timelines. You get to see the past, you get to see the present, and then you get to see all 3 of these characters' perspectives and point of view. There's journal entries, so it's a little bit mixed media. So it's definitely a riveting page-turner that I did enjoy reading a lot and kept me guessing, and I really enjoyed that experience. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this book. It started out super strong with 3 distinct POVs and some mystery to unravel. I predicted some things and others surprised me. I even audibly said, "What?" at one point, so they got me. But it also felt a bit all over the place, a bit repetitive, a bit slow. After the climax, I was ready for things to absolutely take off and thought it would be 5 stars. But things hit a brick wall and slowed way down at the end. I ultimately liked the ending once we got there. So yeah, now I remember. I really liked this one, and it could have been 5 stars. But then the ending completely pacing died. Like, the big climax, the big reveal, everything's on the table. Where are they going to go from here? Oh, nowhere. Okay, got it. And things just slowed way down, and it was rough. So, gosh, that was so disappointing, because it probably would have been 5, but I had to take it to 3.5 after that abysmal 3rd act pacing. So, but I still really enjoyed it, honestly, and the ending was fine. The last book I read in April was Good People by Patmeena Sabit, and this is a 2026 literary fiction which is blended with suspense, so this just came out. I was at Barnes & Noble with my mom probably on like April 29th, So I had like a day and a half left in the month, and we saw this book, and I thought, oh man, do I do it? Because it was like, I think 400 pages. We might have been there on the 28th. It was a couple of days. Okay, no, it's like just over like 380, I think. So I was like, okay, I can probably do it in a couple of days. And I just, fortunately, was in a play and had a lot of time backstage, so I could read this. The Sharath family is the picture of success. Prosperous, rich, happy, they came to this country as refugees with nothing more than the clothes on their backs, and now, after years of hard work, they live in the most exclusive neighborhood, their growing family attending the most prestigious schools. Zora, the eldest daughter, is the apple of her father's eye. When an unthinkable tragedy strikes, everyone is left reeling, and the family is thrust into the court of public opinion. So I'll stop reading there. So again, I don't know if it would be mixed media, but this is comprised entirely of interviews. So you get like the name of somebody and then their relationship to the family. Whether it's like a waiter that served them once, or a family friend, or a friend of one of the children from school. It's just a book of interviews. It kind of reads like a documentary. In fact, let me read you my review. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I picked this up on a whim, and the family drama aspect of the inside cover intrigued me. It definitely took some adjustment on my part to get used to the multimedia documentary-style, non-linear storytelling of this book, but once I got into the groove about 20 pages in, I enjoyed piecing different things together and trying to guess what the tragedy would be, then solve the mystery. I never quite knew what to believe and was constantly changing my opinion from point of view to point of view, which was powerful and thought-provoking, and likely the whole point. Yeah, I would read. Basically, there's like two camps. There's people that have an opinion about something that happened, and then other people that had an opinion about something that happened. It's kind of like a Casey Anthony type of thing, where there's people that are very firmly believing that she's innocent, and people that are like, no, she's guilty. So we get a little bit of that in this book, and each time someone was making their case, I was 100% like, yeah. So I'm one of the mobsters with a pitchfork, I guess. So a slight spoiler, and it's not like a plot spoiler, but it's kind of like a story structure spoiler. So if you don't care to know anything about this book and you want to go in completely blind, then skip ahead like 15 seconds. But the spoiler starts now. As impressed as I was with the unique storytelling format of this book, I was equally disappointed with the ambiguous ending. So yeah, we are left to kind of piece our own conclusion. I hope that was 15 seconds. I definitely wanted a bigger payoff than we got in this book. I still really enjoyed the read, though. The length of the book could have been worth it with a satisfying ending, but I think it went about 100 pages too long and got a bit repetitive. I struggled to track and connect with all the different characters, but that didn't bother me as much because I was very invested in the family story. So yeah, I kind of got to a point where I could not keep track of all these people that were being interviewed, but I didn't really care who they were. I was just listening to what they had to say because they were all different pieces of this puzzle about the family. And I was fine with that. I didn't need to remember which character is which. That didn't bother me much, but it could be a thing. This one was a bit of a ride, but I kept turning the pages to learn more, and I liked more things than I didn't, so I landed just right of center at 3.5. A more definitive ending would have made it a 5 for me. Alright, so these are the 9 books that I read in April, and I cannot believe that I read 9, and some of these are pretty thick, like 300 to 400 pages. 600 for that one, so yeah, it was a lot of reading. I kind of did it to myself because I got into this good theme, and I'm like, I have to read them all in April. So that's what happened. In May, I'm reading authors that I like, so it's been really nice. One, I can read as many as I get to and not feel like I have to read every single one of them, so that's wonderful. And it's been really great just picking up books by authors that I already know I like, so that feels really productive. But these are the books I read in April and what I think about them, and I will see you in my next video in a couple weeks.